G'day everybody and welcome back to the ScaleHQ podcast. Today's episode, I'm going to give you a very short intro because I'm about to give you a real intro in the podcast that's just got me in it. Today's a solo one, but today's a wake-up call. And if you like a good old wake-up call, get ready for it because I think I'm going to sniff out or smoke out some things that were absolutely confronting for me. And if you're in your 40s or 50s or even early 60s and you're ignoring these things, this is real life stuff. This isn't business stuff. This is real life stuff. So please listen on. I hope you enjoy the episode. I hope you find it valuable. And at the end, I've given you some contact details where you can reach out to me if you want a bit more info or to leverage some of the tools that I'm using to address this potentially exciting opportunity, but brutal facts about where you might be right now. Enjoy.
Welcome to the ScaleHQ podcast. I am Sean Steele and I'm a growth mentor, digital nomad, a massive metalhead, and the founder of ScaleHQ. And you, more importantly, are a founder of a 7 or 8 figure services business who is finally ready to get serious about scaling up or securing a step back from your business or a life-changing exit in the next 3 to 5 years. And if that's you, then you are in the right place, because with over 100 million in revenue growth across my last 4 companies and many acquisitions under my belt, I have spent my whole career figuring out what makes businesses more valuable, scalable, and sellable. And I've learned a couple of things, and I'm thrilled to have an opportunity to share those with you today. So welcome to your fortnightly dose of practical strategy, founder success stories, and expert deep dives to help you finally get a return on all that sacrifice that you've made in your business. Welcome to the show. Let's dive right in.
A week. You move during the day, you're active, you eat, well-ish, probably, maybe even better than most. But this kind of question haunted me a bit recently, which is, am I actually fit enough to survive the financial success I've created in life? Like, not just to run a business, but to enjoy the rewards of it, like, into your 70s and 80s. And the reason I've been thinking about this is because a couple of months ago, I came across something from Dr. Peter Attia. So if you may or may not have heard of Dr. Peter Attia, he's like a longevity specialist. He's been on Joe Rogan and 1,000 other things. You type in his name, you'll find a million things on him. He's an ex-surgeon, but I think he's probably got one of the better evidence-based voices in health optimization. And he talks a lot about this idea of the centenarian decathlon. Like not a competition, but a framework for thinking about like the function that you want to have in your 80s, in that sort of penultimate decade, if you like, the sort of 80 to 90, what you actually want to be doing at, say, 85. And what is the framework for training now? What should you be able to do now? If you want to do that at 85, what should you actually already be able to do right now because your body's already in decline? So let me give an example. Like, okay, what do you want to be able to do at 85? Okay, you probably don't want to run marathons, like just daily stuff. You probably want to walk up the stairs carrying your groceries. You probably want to be able to put your own bag in the overhead locker on a plane, assuming you're tall enough. Or you probably want to play football or volleyball or whatever with your grandkids, or you want to be able to get up off the floor without anybody's assistance, which might seem simpler than it sounds. You might want to be able to travel or hike or swim or sort of live independently and not be the person in the chair, like sitting in front of the TV all day, watching life from the sidelines. But there's like a bit of a brutal truth in here, which is your body's already in gradual decline. Like your strength, your muscle mass, your cardiovascular capacity, your bone density, it all actually starts tapering off from your 30s and 40s, which is frightening unless you train deliberately to slow it down. So for example, like what would you need to be able to do today if you want to do those things at 80 that I just talked about? Well, if you want to be able to carry, say, 20 kilos, which is not that much, that's probably 2 very full shopping bags. 20 kilos at 80, you probably need to be able to carry at least 40 kilos today. So that's at least 20 kilos in each hand. If you want to be able to get off the ground easily in your 80s, you'd need to be able to do floor to standing drills, no problem right now, deep squats right now. Like this is a sort of reverse engineering of your physical future, which really rocked me because I spent all my time working with founders, reverse engineering their vision for themselves in the future back into what does their business need to do now. But I hadn't really been thinking about that personally. And all of a sudden you take a step out and it's actually pretty scary. And why I think we get this wrong is because we've got this psychology where we're really good at building for today, like revenue and teams and getting launches right and strategy. But then, when it comes to health, we're kind of like live in the moment, like let's worry about that later. Like we're going to get this exit done or this step back done. And then we'll like have time to just focus on our health and walking and being in nature and all the rest. And like worrying about it later kind of works for, I don't know, maybe mindfulness or something, but it's like for our physical capacity, it's probably a death sentence. Like you can't wait until 70 to build strength. You can't build your VO2 max. Your VO2 max is a measure of your body's ability to use oxygen when you're doing intense exercise, like running, for example. And the higher the number is, the more efficiently your heart and your lungs and your muscles like work together. So it's like your cardiovascular engine horsepower. But importantly, it's like one of the strongest predictors there is of how long and how well you're going to live. What is your VO2 max? I'm going to come about how that gets tested. But you can't start building VO2 max when your heart function's already diminished. Like, you can't start doing that in your 60s or 70s. You can't get your bone density back after you fractured your hip. You have to have bone density now if you want to prevent the hip fracture. Well, we're training for like speed and scale and margin and EBITDA, but we actually also need to start training for 30 years from now for what we actually want our life to be like. And I think what shocked me recently was not the sort of philosophy, but was actually the data. What Peter Attia says is that if you are in the top 25% for VO2 max measurement, so like that kind of your ability to manage oxygen when you're like running absolutely super hard, for example, how well you can do that, how well your body can process it all. If you're in the top 25%, you have reduced your risk of death from any cause, like diabetes, cancer, heart problems, anything that you can think of. The major causes of death are reduced by 400 to 500% if you're in the top 25% of VO2 max. Second, your grip strength, your leg strength, and your plank hold times, like a sort of abdominal brace where you're on your tippy toes and on your elbows, plank hold, and your grip strength and your leg strength, they predict your ability to have long-term independence, like who ends up in aged care, who's immobile and being pushed around in a wheelchair, and who's up walking around and going out for walks in nature. That is determined by those three things right now. And your heart rate recovery, which is like when you build your heart rate up really fast to like a really high level, like really high intensity cardio, how fast does it actually come back to a normal heart rate? The longer that takes, the worse it is. So the faster it retracts to kind of where it belongs. That heart rate recovery is more predictive of your cardiac risk, of your heart attack risk, than your cholesterol. According to the Journal of American Medical, whatever they're called, men who are in the bottom 25% of VO2 max, not the top 25%, but the bottom 25%, have a 500% higher risk of death than the people who are in the top 2%. 500% of dying. That's worse than smoking. That's worse than diabetes. So actually, inability to perform cardio exercise at a decent level is a higher risk factor of you dying than being a smoker or having diabetes. So this is not about like having some beautiful fit body and looking awesome at the beach. This is like staying out of the chair and becoming independent and staying independent. So let me talk about like what are some of these measurements. So he's come up with this like these longevity benchmarks. So what are the things that you should be able to do now in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 20s, if you want to be able to do X, Y, Z when you're in your 80s? So, and I'm just going to use 50s because I've done this for our family. So I've done it for my boys who are like 17 and 20, Anna who's 50 this year, and I am 48 this year. So I'm just taking the 50 benchmark. It's kind of cheating. I should have done it on 40s. But anyway, let me give you an example. I should be able to deadlift at least 1.25 to 1.5 times my body weight. So I weigh about 85 kilos or something. That means I should be able to deadlift 1.5 times that, which is, so 85 plus 42 is about 105. It's about 130 kilos. So if you're about 80 kilos, can you deadlift 130 kilos safely? If you're a lady and you are, let's just say you're 60 kilos, you should also be able to do at least a 60 kilo, somewhere between a 60 and a 90 kilo deadlift. Can you do a 60 to 90 kilo deadlift? Question mark. Okay, what about push-ups? Well, I should be able to do at least 20 push-ups, and Anna should be able to do 10 to 15 push-ups. I know lots of guys my age, because we do this in golf sometimes, we're mucking around, and we have competitions, and we've already pre-assessed how many push-ups people can do. It's like a penalty that we have. I mean, push-ups, I'm fine with. I can probably do about 40 to 50 push-ups in a row. I need to do at least 20, but it's one area where I can sort of perform at a high level. I know heaps of guys who can't do 10 at my age. What about wall sits, which is where you're kind of like, your back's against the wall, your butt's against the wall, your legs are in a right angle, your knees are in a right angle, if you like. The top part of your legs is parallel to the floor and the bottom are perpendicular. And you should be able to do a wall sit, like a hold of that position, for at least 2 minutes for a man at 50 and 1.5 minutes for a woman. Now, you'll remember being in school, certainly if you grew up in Australia, you will, the old sit and reach test where you have to like sit on the floor with your legs stretched out. It's like a hamstring flexibility test. And the question is, can you get to your toes or can you get past your toes? Well, I was shocked to find out that I should be able to get, at 50, 8 centimeters past my toes. 8 centimeters! I was like, luckily for me, I do a lot of flexibility works. I could probably get pretty close. I reckon maybe like 5, 6, something like that. I can put my hands on the floor with my palms touching the ground. I know a lot of people my age who cannot do that. One of the things actually that was one of the things that first made me realize it even could be a contributing factor to my back is a shoulder wall test, which is where you like put your back against the wall, your elbows against the wall, your shoulders are against the wall, and your wrists are against the wall. And you need to push your arms up, keeping your wrists and your elbows against the wall the whole time until your arms are completely over the top of your head. Your hands are now vertical and your wrists and your elbows are still touching the wall and haven't come off the wall whilst you're sliding them from parallel to the ground all the way up to the top. I cannot do that. There's absolutely no way I can do that. My arms come off the wall because I don't have the mobility in my upper thoracic back. And I was like, oh my God, that's probably got something to do with my lower back issues as well. You should be able to do balance on one leg with your eyes closed for at least 10 seconds at my age. Luckily, I can do that one, but I know people who can't. And here's one of the ones that really shook me a bit. So I'm not going to give you all of them, but I'm going to give you the majority. The VO2 max one. So one of the ways to test VO2 max without fancy equipment, basically you have a 12-minute running test. You have to run for 12 minutes, which is about probably 2.2 to 2.5 Ks is how far I'd need to run, which means you're doing 4 minutes 50 per kilometre to maybe 5 minutes 30 per kilometre. So if you are a regular runner, you should be able to do that for 12 minutes. If you don't run at all, I guarantee you will not be able to run that speed for 2.5 kilometers in 12 minutes. That, it takes a bit of fitness. And I have had lower disc issues. And so I've stopped running about, 5 years ago. And I realized because I stopped running, I'm not doing anything really cardio-wise to build my VO2 max. So I could not meet that threshold today. And so that was a real shock to me thinking, geez, I can't actually run that far because of my discs. So I have to come up with another way of building my VO2 max, like a rower or stationary bikes doing, fast interval training. Here's 2 more. Shocker for you. Suitcase carries, which is like in a gym, holding a single dumbbell in each hand, and you have to be able to walk for at least 20 meters holding these weights in your hand. I should be able to do at 50% of my body weight per arm. So that's 40 kilo. That's a 40 kilo dumbbell, maybe 42 kilo dumbbell in each hand. That is a super heavy weight to have in one hand and to walk 20 meters. A lady at 50 needs to be able to do at least 30 to 35% of her body weight per hand. So that might mean if she's a 60 kilo human, she's going to have to do 30% of that. So that's roughly about 20 kilos per hand. Can she do 20 kilos per hand? If you don't have the grip strength, you won't be able to do it. And grip strength is actually a determinant of future longevity. And then finally, what about a plank? A plank hold. You're on your tippy toes, you're parallel to the floor, your elbows are on the floor, and you are keeping your body off the floor with your abdominals contracted. I need to be able to do at least 2 minutes. A woman at my age needs to be able to do at least 1.5 minutes. I know, Sean, that actually 50% of those I couldn't do. So what am I doing about it? I have built a 6-month kind of rebuild plan. I'm focused on building my VO2 max with bike sprints and a cross trainer and a rower. I'm doing suitcase carries. I don't have enough weights in my gym to do suitcase carries, so I can do lots of dead hangs where you're like hanging onto a pull-up bar, progressive kind of grip strength work on different kinds of weights, core strength work. I know I need to do glute work, otherwise I'm never going to be able to meet the sort of deadlift or the hip thrust type requirements. So I'm going to have to do single leg deadlifts because I can't do doubles anymore. I'm going to have to do core work, side planks and blah, blah, blah. So I've got this plan for the next 6 months, and I'm going to measure myself against every one of those metrics in November. And we've committed as a family, the whole family is going to do it together. Now you could test these monthly, you could test them quarterly, you could test them 6 monthly, but you shouldn't test them any less than annually. It's a great way of, rather than just going and getting blood tests and saying, yeah, my bloods are all good. What about your strength? If you don't have that strength and you think you're going to be doing things when you're 80, you're going to be surprised to realize, hey, great, I've made all this money, but I'm actually incapable of enjoying my life. I can't go on holidays. I can't travel. I can't pick up my grandkids. So I refuse, this is my public refusal to become the guy who can't play sport 2 days in a row, which is actually where I am right now in my disc rehab program. I want to be able to lift my grandkids. I want to be able to walk all day on holidays. I want to be able to travel extensively and not able to get out of a plane seat. Like, the message I want you to hear is that you can delegate most things in your business. It's a beautiful thing. You can delegate marketing, you can delegate operations, but you cannot delegate your health. That is unfortunately not an option. Okay. And you also can't delegate your relationships. So your health and your relationships are like the only two assets that they compound, but they become irreplaceable if you lose them. So here's the wake-up call. Don't wait for the diagnosis. Don't wait until you can't do the things that you want to do. Start now. Like, run the tests, do some learning, get on and find Peter Attia, download, longevity benchmark. If this hits for you, message me. I will send you the benchmarks that I'm using. I will send you the tracker that I'm using. I will send you the testing protocol that I'm using. I'll send you my rebuild plan. Again, it's not going to be customized for you. It's customized for me. But if it stimulates some ideas, you can whack it all onto ChatGPT and change it all for yourself. And if you know another founder who is putting all of their health and perhaps their relationships, but that's not what today's about, if they are putting their health aside until they've secured some exit or they've got a bit of capacity because work's so busy, and you can see they're in their 40s or 50s or 60s, particularly 40s and 50s where they've still got a lot of time in which to address this stuff, please share this with them. Please share this with them. It's too common that I see founders achieve material financial success and independence, but actually do not have a body they can enjoy it in or relationships that they can enjoy it with. That is not wealth. That might be rich in terms of money, but wealth requires positive, sustainable relationships, enjoyment of life, health, friends, social, it's the whole gamut. So if you actually want real wealth, you can't ignore this stuff. So if you want the testing, hit me up in the DMs or just email me at sean@scalehq.com.au. I'll send you all the stuff that I've used. I hope this has been useful. And for some of you, I hope it's a wake-up call. And if I can be of any support, let me know. See you at 80.